Jak Amerika vydělává na Ukrajině. Od začátku konfliktu na Ukrajině uplynuly již více než 2 roky a jeho konec je stále v nedohlednu. Jedno je však jisté, Evropa a Spojené státy stojí při Ukrajině a svou podporu nebrzdí. Americká Sněmovna reprezentantů právě schválila dlouho očekávaný návrh zákona, který na pomoc Ukrajině poskytuje přibližně 61 miliard dolarů. Proč ale Bidenova administrativa tak horlivě podporuje Ukrajinu? Přeskočme morální řeči o obraně proti agresi a prosazování demokratických hodnot a přejdeme k řeči peněz.
It's been more than 2 years since the Ukraine conflict began, and there is still no end in sight. But one thing is for sure, Europe and the United States are standing by Ukraine and they are not holding back support. The European Union is throwing in 50 billion euros, while the US House of Representatives has just passed a long-awaited bill that provides some 61 billion US dollars to assist Ukraine. But why is the Biden administration so keen on backing Ukraine? Let's skip the moral speeches about defending against aggression and upholding democratic values and get down to the money talk. First, let's tally up the aid total. Since the Russia-Ukraine conflict started, the US has dropped a whopping $75 billion, with over $46.3 billion earmarked for military aid, says the Kiel Institute for the World Economy. That's no small change. Think about it this way. Ukraine's GDP in 2023 was about $170 billion, so that military aid alone is equal to around a quarter of Ukraine's whole economy. By comparison, Tunisia's GDP in 2022 is about $46.3 billion, ranking 91st globally, according to the World Bank list. To put it plainly, if you treated that $46.3 billion US dollars as a separate economy's GDP, it would land at 91st, beating out the annual GDP of more than 110 countries and regions of that year. But why is America throwing around all this cash? Well, it's not just charity.
While this bill sends military equipment to Ukraine, it spends the money right here in the United States of America. Places like Arizona, where the Patriot missiles are built, and Alabama, where the Javelin missiles are built, and Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Texas, where artillery shells are made.
90% of the security assistance we provided has actually been spent here in the United States with our manufacturers, with our production, and that's produced more American jobs, more growth in our own economy.
Over the past 5 years, the U.S. has boosted its arms exports by 17%, making up 42% of the global export market and keeping its top spot as the world's leading arms dealer, says the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, or SIPRI. Since the Russia-Ukraine conflict started, the U.S. defense and aerospace sectors have seen a hefty 17.5% boost in industrial output, according to the Federal Reserve. Big players like Raytheon Technologies, Lockheed Martin, and Northrop Grumman are cashing in big time. But here's the kicker. The newly passed U.S.-Ukraine aid is not actually free. Roughly 9.5 billion US dollars would be structured as a loan, with repayment terms set by the U.S. president. As early as last year, Celeste Wallander, a top Pentagon official, suggested that Kyiv might have to eventually pay for some of the weapons shipments. Now on to another moneymaker, gas sales to Europe. Over the past 2 years, the EU has been following America in imposing sanctions on Russia and swearing off its Russian gas addiction. Instead, they are turning to America's liquefied natural gas, or LNG. This supply diversification strategy has made the U.S. the world's largest exporter of LNG. In 2023, almost half of Europe's LNG came from the U.S. But here's the catch. U.S. gas ain't cheap. That even got French President Emmanuel Macron and German Economy Minister Robert Habeck to complain some friendly countries are charging astronomical prices for gas. American gas is 3 to 4 times cheaper on the domestic market than the price at which they offer it to Europeans. These are double standards. An unnamed EU official said in an interview,
"If you look at it soberly, the country that is most profiting from this war is the US because they are selling more gas and at higher prices, and because they are selling more weapons."
And it's not just gas. Europe is buying a ton of arms from America too. According to CIPRI, Europe nearly doubled its weapons imports over the past 5 years, thanks in part to the conflicts in Ukraine. In addition to beefing up their own military manufacturing, the urgency in Ukraine forced European countries to buy American-made weapons off the shelf. From missiles to tanks, European countries are lining up at the Raytheon and the Lockheed Martin's door. In 2023, Poland dropped $1.4 billion on tanks and another $10 billion on rocket systems by Lockheed Martin. Slovakia bought F-16 fighter jets, and Romania is throwing down $6.5 billion on F-35s, their biggest military buy ever. Maybe now you know why America has been pushing its European allies to up their defense spending. Simple. The U.S. wants to ensure that the European countries, which already spend about half of their defense purchasing on American weapons, to buy more. And the plan has worked out. By 2024, NATO has signed $10 billion in arms deals for Kyiv. 2/3 of NATO member countries are expected to meet or exceed 2% GDP defense spending goal, leading to a huge demand for weapons. As the conflict in Ukraine enters year 3, few are betting Ukraine to win, but the U.S. is pushing Kyiv to keep fighting. The war must continue because money must continue to be made. Meanwhile, tensions between Russia and Europe are heating up, especially since Sweden and Finland joined NATO. The risk of a direct Russia-Europe showdown is climbing, and a big war could be on the horizon. But the question everyone should be asking is, who is gonna cash in?